Good evening, everyone. My name is Joan Wright. I am a rank and file member of OPEIU 153 and Kickstarter United, and I'm also a member of Workers Strike Back. And I'm going to be chairing this meeting tonight alongside Justin. This is our November meeting of the Seattle Workers Strike Back chapter. We have a great agenda this evening. Our main topic for discussion is going to be the 2025 elections, what they mean, what is next for fighting the two parties of Wall Street and war, in addition to other topics about how what we're doing as Workers Strike Back members to fight. The first point before we have our main discussion is we're going to be hearing about a very important campaign that's happening right now against retaliation, against union workers, against teachers, and in Tacoma. We're going to have Justin introduce that point before we get into our main discussion. Can you give it up for Justin?
Thank you, everyone. So public schools have faced chronic underfunding, and the budget cuts keep coming, and they're horrendous. That's why 38 teachers and education support professionals at Jenny Reed Elementary School in Tacoma in Washington State organized a sick-out on September 12th in protest against these draconian budget cuts announced by Tacoma Public Schools officials. The cuts included the canceling of over 100 positions and additional cuts affecting hundreds of school workers. The workers are rank-and-file members of the Tacoma Education Association and the Tacoma Federation of Education Support Professionals, who took action on behalf of students in their community. Rather than addressing the dire budget situation and the needs of students and staff, Tacoma Public Schools have launched an investigation into the sick-out in preparation to take retaliatory action against these courageous workers. Workers Strike Back has been on the forefront of standing in political solidarity with the Jenny Reed staff. We organized a public petition with 3 demands. The Tacoma Public Schools officials immediately end all investigations of Reed staff members, no retaliation, no firings or suspensions. The Tacoma Public Schools officials provide equitable staffing and resources for Title I schools in the South End, East Side, and Hilltop communities, and that Democratic and Republican elected officials in the Washington State Legislature and Democratic Governor Bob Ferguson tax the rich to fully fund the state's public schools. We appreciate that the Tacoma chapter of Democratic Socialists of America also joined us in this petition. I'm happy to report that last time I checked, 489 people have signed the petition and emailed the Tacoma Public Schools officials. We need to send the message loud and clear that we do not support these anti-worker school administrators. Let's get that number way over 100 tonight. And so we have Workers Strike Back organizers that can hand out a QR code to the online petition, and we encourage everyone to add your name to it. And once you fill that out, it'll automatically send an email to the Tacoma School District officials. The Democratic and Republican parties have criminally underfunded public education for decades. Both these parties represent the billionaires and multimillionaires, and for decades have presided over the nation's most regressive tax system, now the second most regressive. The lowest income families pay the most in taxes and face the brunt of shockingly underfunded schools, infrastructure, and transportation. Public school funding cuts have been particularly devastating for students at schools like Jenny Reed, where 75% belong to families in poverty. 85% are students of color, and 7% are homeless. Tacoma Public Schools officials have cut or displaced 5 Jenny Reed classroom teachers, 1 counselor, an instructional coach, and 1 education support professional since the end of last school year. The school has faced many years of severe neglect. School water tested high for lead in 2015, and the Tacoma officials refused to review the results until 2016. Just this September, the officials failed to even notify parents and staff after a man attempted to kidnap 2 students outside the school. In June 2024, Tacoma Public Schools officials went on an expensive taxpayer-funded retreat just weeks after announcing massive budget cuts. All the officials have given themselves lavish salary increases. So, for example, Superintendent Joshua Garcia makes over $385,000 per year. The Chief Financial Officer, Rosalind Medina, over $315,000 per year. But do you know what's most outrageous and revealing fact is about the crisis at Jenny Reed? It's that this is happening when the Washington State Governor, Bob Ferguson, is a Democrat, and the state legislature is majority Democrat. In this year's state budget, Ferguson and the Democrats have carried out nearly $3 billion in budget cuts, despite the enormous wealth in this state. They can't blame this on Trump or the Republican Party. In fact, Democrats have had majorities in the state legislature for many years, and they have presided over deep underfunding of education, healthcare, jobs, and housing. The staff who carried out this sick out at Jenny Reed Elementary are showing far more courage than any of the Democratic Party elected officials or these wealthy school administrators who are doing the bidding of the rich and corporations. It shows that the Democratic Party is as much a servant of billionaire and multimillionaire interests as the Republican Party, and just as hostile to the working class. We desperately need a new party. We need candidates and elected representatives who use their office, as Kshama did for a decade on the Seattle City Council, to build mass working class movements and win victories by forcing big business and the Democratic Party to concede. This is also exactly why we're building Workers Strike Back as an independent fighting organization. Earlier this year, Washington State Democrats were getting ready to pass a shocking $7 billion in cuts to social programs. Unfortunately, the leadership of the labor movement is tied at the hip to the Democratic Party and refused to mount any fight back. In stark contrast, Workers Strike Back members who are in the public sector unions fought back against the budget cuts, organized with other union members to call for mass rallies and strike action, and forced the union leaders to act. This in turn forced the Democratic Party politicians to reduce the budget cuts from $7 down to $2.7 billion. That's was that over $4 billion reduction that we won. So this shows that both workers and young people can get organized and win, but also that we need even more powerful movements to prevent these cuts and even tax the rich to raise more funding. So if you've not joined Workers Strike Back yet, do it tonight. If you're already a member, please consider increasing your monthly dues or making a one-time donation. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Let's hear it one more time for Justin. And let's hear it one more time for those brave workers who fought these cuts with that brave sick out, who are facing retaliation. When workers are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. That's right. Workers Strike Back is an organization of action. So please, if you have those QR codes, take action. We need to fight for these workers who took this brave stand. Next on our agenda, we're going to get into our main discussion. In addition to being an organization of action, like as Justin said, defending over $4 billion of cuts that the Democrats were trying to push on everyone, the Democratic Party was pushing on everyone here in Washington. We fought it and defeated them. And so in addition to being that organization of action, we're also an organization that takes serious democratic discussion and debate and education about what it's going to take to win these victories. So if you haven't been to a Workers Strike Back meeting before, our political discussions that we have at the core of all of our meetings, we start off with an introduction. Tonight, Kshama is going to be starting us with an introduction on this topic, the next steps to fight the two parties of Wall Street and war after the 2025 elections. Shortly after that, we're also going to be doing, we're doing a national membership and dues drive to build up our organization, both here in Seattle, but also nationally. And then we're going to get into our democratic discussion. So if you would like to, while Kshama is giving our introduction, if you have something you'd like to contribute, just be marking it down. Once we get into the discussion, Justin and myself as chairs will help facilitate it. and we'll take a raise of hands for people who want to also contribute and join on the discussion. So to start us off, we're going to have Kshama introduce our political discussion. Please welcome Kshama. Sorry, just one thing I forgot to add. Kshama, of course, many of us in Seattle know is the former Socialist Seattle council member here in Seattle, currently running for Congress against genocidal warmonger Adam Smith. And Kshama is also an elected member of Workers Strike Back's National Coordinating Committee. So let's give it up for Kshama one more time.
Thank you, Joan and Justin, and good evening, everyone who's here in person and also everybody who's watching over live stream. And at some point, we should also share that there are people over a live stream. And it also reflects what Joan was just saying, that this is a national campaign, and the congressional campaign is a national campaign, and Workers Strike Back is a nationwide organization. So we have Workers Strike Back members in multiple cities across the nation, not only in Seattle. Talking about the 2025 election, obviously the highlight is the election of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York. He ran on extremely popular demands like rent freeze and funding universal childcare and free buses by taxing the rich. This election was a resounding repudiation of Zionism and of Wall Street and of the politicians who represent Zionism and Wall Street. It's also decisive because he is the first New York City mayoral candidate in 55 years to get 1 million votes. The common denominator of all the election results in 2025 is that it is a rebuke. It's a very clear rebuke of Donald Trump and the Republicans, especially along the lines of how Donald Trump promised affordability. He promised that he was going to represent the common man and woman. He did that in his first administration as well, and he has broken his promises both times. And there is massive anger nationally about all of that. There is a huge wave of anger against the tariffs, the cost of living crisis, and also anger at the genocide, and anger at his warmongering and saber rattling now against Venezuela and Colombia. And so all of this, and not to mention the growing anger at ICE raids and the masked agents who are going around terrorizing our cities, the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, the SNAP funding, the food assistance funding that was lost for many days. All of this shows that people are angry and people can be won over to a genuinely progressive fighting agenda. The other elections, though, reveal the real character of the elections that we have had this year. Omar Fateh was a Mamdani-like candidate. He was called the Mamdani of Minneapolis or Mamdani of the Midwest, and he ran for mayor of Minneapolis. He ran against an extremely unpopular corporate mayor who had already been there for 2 terms. His name is Jacob Fry. He was actually the mayor when the George Floyd rebellion happened in 2020. There was huge anger against him about the racism, about police brutality, about the cost of living crisis, and also the fact that the mayoral administration of Jacob Fry dealt with the George Floyd rebellion with extreme cruelty, calling in the National Guard. And you know who else helped him call the National Guard in Minneapolis? It's Democratic Governor Tim Walz, who was Kamala Harris's running mate, if you might remember. But the point here is that Fateh was not able to defeat Jacob Fry despite all that unpopularity of Fry, because he, meaning Fateh, did not bring in any concrete demands in any real way, in the way that Mamdani brought. Mamdani brought his working class demands consistently. Fateh, unfortunately, did not do that, and he lost the election, which is not surprising. That is what we thought would happen. In the Seattle mayoral election, and those of you who are here in person would know about what I'm talking about, but those of you who are on live stream, just to share with you all, progressive Democratic candidate Katie Wilson is winning. I mean, the mail-in ballots are still being counted, but she's ahead now. She's defeating Bruce Harrell, the incumbent mayor, who is a corporate mayor or corporate politician, as corporate as they come. Bruce Harrell was a city council member when I was on the Seattle City Council, and I remember very clearly during the fight for the $15 minimum wage, and when we won it, it became the first major city $15 minimum wage. At that time, I remember, it was very clear that from the very beginning, it was only my office that was, as a socialist, independent, revolutionary socialist office, that was fighting for $15 an hour. In fact, among the 8 council members who are all Democrats, not one of them was willing to go out and support $15 an hour. And not only that, there were council members like Bruce Harrell, as I said, they were all Democrats. Bruce Harrell was among the Democrats who fought tooth and nail for every possible corporate loophole in our $15 legislation. And we should be proud as working people and as socialists, we should be proud. Worker Strike Back's legacy goes back to all of that fight back. And in that fight back, we defeated the Democrats. We didn't defeat them on every loophole, but we defeated them on the main ones. One of the main ones they wanted was to eliminate inflation increases in $15 an hour. We defeated them on that. And that is why Seattle's minimum wage, which is $20.76 today, is the highest minimum wage in the nation. And next year, Seattle's minimum wage is going to go up even further to $21.35. But we won that by fighting against Democrats like Bruce Harrell, not by trying to have backroom conversations with him and trying to cajole him and convince him to do the right thing. No, we did that by building the 15 Now mass campaign, which mobilized thousands of working people through my office and through my fellow socialists. We organized neighborhood action groups, protest action conferences, and it was the power of that kind of organized militant working class alongside a socialist city council office that we were able to win. So I say good riddance to Bruce Harrell. Unfortunately, I don't think the politics of people like Katie Wilson is the answer either. Katie Wilson has made it very clear, and you can read it in the Seattle Times, she has made it very clear she does not intend to fight the system in any way. In fact, she has pledged to uphold the system, that I don't want to tear it down, I want to work with it. She ran on no clear demands, and this was one of the reasons why her election was so close with Bruce Harrell, despite having the endorsements of many, many progressive Democratic Party leaders, because she did not excite in working class people the kind of belief that, yes, we could actually fight for these things and we could win them, and that there is something in it for us. So for working people, it is not about electing a person by itself. It's about electing a fighter so that we can build a fight back using that office. Elections in themselves mean very little to us. And I have observed Katie Wilson's role closely when I was on the Seattle City Council, and unfortunately she has not been willing to fight the progressive establishment, and I don't imagine that's going to change, especially based on how she ran her campaign and what she has said publicly. But overall, these election results show that people, as I said, people are fed up with corporate politics and are angry. The cost of living, the genocide in Gaza being two crucial issues, as I said, especially there is a dramatic shift in the support for Israel. I mean, such a thing has never been observed in US mass consciousness, where the majority, a resounding majority of American working and young people are absolutely opposed to Israel's occupation of Gaza, not just the genocide. And any candidate, any politician taking funding from AIPAC, everybody knows about AIPAC, the Zionist, the notorious Zionist anti-Israel lobby group. AIPAC funding has become a test. So any politician taking money from AIPAC is immediately classified as somebody who has betrayed us, because they have. I mean, taking money from AIPAC automatically means that you're going to stand up for Israel and not for ending the brutal occupation. And so our opponent in the congressional campaign, Democratic Congress member Adam Smith, he has, of course, as many of you know already, but if you don't, you should know, he has funded the Israeli regime to the hilt. He funded the genocide in Gaza. He also voted to ban US funding for United Nations food assistance to Gaza. And at a time when there were multiple reports from very credible organizations coming about the mass starvation that was being orchestrated systematically by the Israeli regime. And so this is the kind of guy. It's no surprise that for Adam Smith, AIPAC was his biggest funder in last year's election. The fact that AIPAC money has become radioactive for any Democratic Party candidate who wants to have progressive credentials is credit to the pro-Palestine anti-war movement. It's credit to the tens of millions of American working and young people who have reached the correct conclusion about the need to end the brutal Israeli occupation of Palestinian lands. But it is not at all any type of guarantee by itself. Far from it. We saw just recently, Massachusetts Democratic Congress member Seth Moulton, he's up for re-election next year, and he's very scared about of the anti-war movement. Why? Because he voted to fund the genocide in Gaza, but he recently announced he's not taking money from AIPAC. But what the hell does that mean? You already funded the genocide to the hilt. You have the blood of 500,000 Palestinians on your hands, and now you say you're not taking any money from AIPAC? This is an attempt. You know what this is? This is an attempt to try and whitewash their bloody record. We can't let them whitewash their bloody records. And there's more to this story as well. Progressive Democrats like Pramila Jayapal, AOC, Jamal Bowman, they have not taken money from AIPAC. There's plenty of Democratic Congress members who have not taken money from AIPAC, but they have also, some of them have voted for genocide, and some of them who didn't vote directly for the genocide, they still voted for the so-called Iron Dome and David Sling and so on and so forth, which are called quote-unquote defensive weaponry, but which they are not. The Israeli state is carrying out a brutal occupation and apartheid regime. There is no defensive aspect to this whatsoever. Everything is in order to carry out the offense in the region. And so we don't buy into Iron Dome and other weapons being called defensive. And so, in other words, all these progressives, Pramila Jayapal, AOC, Jamal Bowman, they all have, in some shape or form, supported the genocide. In fact, 53 members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, not the ones I mentioned, but others, 53 members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus voted for the main bill that sent $26 billion for the genocide in Gaza. And that was the same bill, one of the bills that also banned food assistance to Gaza. 38 members of the Congressional Black Caucus voted for it. We have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to say that, on paper, for you to say that you are an elected official who stands against racism, a black elected official who is purportedly standing against racism? How can you say that you're standing against racism and vote for a genocide that kills 500,000 people? The shutdown fiasco is another example that exposes the true nature of the Democratic Party. Democrats are a dumpster fire of a party. Could it be any more obvious? I mean, it should be obvious in general, but could it be any more obvious than with the shutdown that they don't give a damn about working and poor people? They carried out a government shutdown as a purely performative gesture, claiming that they were standing up for Affordable Care Act subsidies and the restoration of Medicaid funding. But they held the shutdown just long enough for the 2025 elections to get over. Then they pick a group of senators who are either retiring or not up for re-election until 2028 to be the so-called bad guys. I mean, seriously, they think the entirety of the American working class is just plain stupid. But we are not, are we? Tens of millions of poor people went through absolute heartache for the basic food assistance they lost during the shutdown. Federal workers went 6 weeks without pay, many of them facing evictions because they were unable to pay their rent. And no, the Democratic Party politicians did not cave in to Trump and the Republicans because they lack a spine. They didn't cave in because they lack a spine. The Democratic Party capitulated on health care in this shutdown for the same reasons they never passed Medicare for all or made the ACA credits permanent, because they are a party of the billionaires who hate the idea of a public health care system, in fact, who hate the working class having anything good at all. As the great American socialist Eugene Debs said in 1912, the Democratic and Republican parties are not opposed to each other on any question of principle. They both represent the capitalist class. They are merely competing with each other for the spoils of office. The shutdown was cynically motivated by the Democrats to begin with, a ploy to get people to vote blue in the 2025 elections. They never had any intention of actually getting anything for working people out of this. And in fact, there's so much evidence to show that they don't give a damn about working people. In states like Vermont and California, the Democratic Party has taken, explicit efforts to crush any of the movements that have been there to win universal health care. The point is that Democrats don't want to make working people's lives better, nor do the Republicans. Obviously, what both these parties want is to do their job in maximizing the profits of the capitalists and keeping working people yo-yoing between them without any real alternative. So we know that it's not just about those 8 senators or however many there were. The whole party was involved in this shutdown sellout. And the ones who voted against the sellout, you know what their job is? Their real job is to give cover to the people who voted for the sellout. In other words, the people who take good votes, good votes meaning good for the working class, their job is to give cover to those who take bad votes for the working class. This also exposes the total fallacy of the idea that, you just need to vote for one more Democrat next year. Let's just get one more Democrat. We've heard this, right? We've been hearing this. Let's just get one more, then we'll get the House majority. But how does it help electing one more Democrat, when no matter how many Democrats there are, there's always some Democrats who are going to take the wrong votes? It completely exposes the Democratic Party, and all of this brings us back to the idea that Mamdani, AOC, Sanders, the Democratic Socialists of America leadership, all of them are putting forward, which is that the Democratic Party can be reformed, that we should be fighting for the soul of the Democratic Party, as Mamdani has said. Bernie and AOC are going on this fight oligarchy tour where they're saying that, well, in order to fight Trump, you need to vote blue in the 2026 midterm elections. And they're putting forward this idea that there's the corporate Democratic Party and then there's the People's Democratic Party. And you just need to vote blue for that one more Democrat who can help the People's Democratic Party, have sway over the corporate Democratic Party. What do these People's Democrats do? Let's look at that. Mamdani's election night speech as a People's Democrat was to lower expectations of the working class, who are excited that maybe we will now finally we will win something like freezing rent, free buses, and universal childcare. What did he say in his speech? He said, he says, a great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. You know what that means? That's code for let's tone down our expectations. We were activists when we were running the campaign, now we have to govern. And governing means selling out. When I was first elected in 2013 to the Seattle City Council, many Democratic Party operatives, some of whom have now become well-known politicians, gave me the same advice. Yeah, all that activism, that's great, but now that you're going to City Hall, you need to tone all that down. You need to start governing, get down to the brass tacks. If I had a dime for every time I heard, get down to the brass tacks. And somebody literally told me, you need to learn from the Democratic Party politicians. And of course, I knew that if I learned anything from the Democrats, I would straight up sell out the working class people who had brought me to City Hall. And so I think we have to be very clear about what all of this means. The speech that Mamdani gave on election night did not have a word about movements or next steps. The press conference he did the next morning where he announced his transition team, there was no substance at all about what policies he's going to be bringing up. The highlight of this transition team, all the news channels announced that they were all women. The thing that they didn't tell you is that these are all women who have worked in the administrations of Bill de Blasio, Eric Adams, and Michael Bloomberg. That is why the more fundamental question that is associated with the question of, should we go Democratic Party or should we have a new party for the working class, is the question of the strategy needed for the working class to win anything substantial. Can you win anything by avoiding a fight against the capitalist class? And that's where the question of the Democratic Party comes in, because the Democratic Party is controlled by billionaires and multimillionaires. Everybody knows that. Nobody actually denies it. But what they say is that, yes, that may be true, but still we can move our agenda forward because it's too hard to build a new party, and then we can build the People's Democratic Party. But what happens is that when you become part of an organization, a political organization that is controlled by the billionaires, it's the billionaires' agenda that holds sway, not our agenda. And so there is no avenue for us to win anything substantial for the working class without declaring class war on the bourgeois, on the ruling class. And really, what it should say is not just not declare class war, but declare class war back. Because you know what? There is no peace under capitalism for the working class and for the poor, because it is always, the steady state of capitalism is always class war raining down upon us from the billionaires and the multimillionaires like an economic aerial bombardment. And then on top of that, sometimes you have literal aerial bombardment like the people of Gaza are facing. So that's why our choices are not, can we win something without going to war against the billionaire class, or can we win something but we have to go to war against the billionaire class? No, our choices are, can we go to war against the billionaire class and actually change society for the better, or should we lay down and die? Those are the choices that are posed to us. There is no peace with the billionaire class. And I think that is why we have to be clear that even though there are tens of thousands of people, millions of people who are energized, we need to have the correct strategy. We need to put the correct strategy forward. We cannot have leaders who, for example, like Zohran Mamdani, who, as the New York Times reported, his main focus has been to carry out what they call a charm offensive on the billionaires, like trying to cajole them into believing that he is on their side. No billionaire is stupid. If you say tax the billionaires, they know that it's not in their interest. So rather than having this imaginary notion that somehow you're going to win them over for taxes on the billionaires, we should rally working people who are absolutely not only willing, but itching to fight for a tax on billionaires. That was how we won the Amazon tax in Seattle in 2020, which now raises hundreds of millions of dollars every year for affordable housing for the working class. In fact, as part of the Amazon tax victory, we also won a specific chunk of money to build affordable social housing, publicly owned housing for the black working class and poor community that has been devastated because of the skyrocketing rents. And one of those projects actually is being built by New Hope Missionary Baptist Church right here, and its chief pastor, Reverend Jeffrey, who was one of the main fighters of the Tax Amazon movement. But we won that by defeating the Democratic Party, which was viciously opposed to the idea of taxing billionaires because they serve the billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Howard Schultz of Starbucks, who were completely opposed to it. So we won it by organizing action conferences, protest rallies, and most importantly, by organizing a ballot initiative petition where we said that if the city council didn't pass Amazon tax through a city council vote, we were going to go straight to the voters through a ballot initiative. And it was a credible threat because we collected 30,000 signatures for the Tax Amazon ballot measure. And we collected those 30,000 signatures in 3 months, average of 10,000 signatures a month. That was during the George Floyd rebellion, because working class people were out there in the protests, not only to fight against racism, but also to fight against economic injustice. And at that time, we were told, not only by the Democrats, but by their proxies, the NGO leaders and the labor leaders, and also, unfortunately, the DSA leaders, they told us, don't bring the Tax Amazon petition because it's not a black issue. I was told I have no right to bring any demand to the to the Black Lives Matter movement because I'm not black and Tax Amazon is not a black issue. We recognized that this was an example of gatekeeping. We refused to accept that, and we went straight to working class people, black, white, and otherwise. And the petitions were flying out of our hands. People would say, fuck yeah, I want to tax Amazon. I'm going to sign that petition. That is the approach we need, and that approach, unfortunately, tragically for the working class, is completely missing in the labor leadership, in the NGO leadership, in the liberal leadership, and certainly in the Democratic Party, which doesn't even represent us in the first place. So that's why it is extremely important for us to continue building Worker Strike Back. You already heard examples of how Worker Strike Back has been instrumental in winning victories and actually defeating the Democratic Party again and again. And this is the leadership that is not being provided by the labor leadership. So I urge you all, if you haven't joined Worker Strike Back already, those of you who are here and on the live stream, join Worker Strike Back and also get involved in our congressional campaign, because if we can elect the first ever revolutionary socialist to the US Congress, it will be nothing less than a political earthquake. We are fighting for free healthcare for all, for national rent control, and for a national $25 an hour minimum wage. In big cities, we believe it should be at least $30 an hour. We are fighting to end the genocide in Gaza, and all US military funding for the Israeli state, and end the brutal occupation. We are also fighting to stop all the deportations and shut down ICE and the detention centers. So if that sounds to you like a good plan, then join us. Solidarity.
All right, thanks, Kshama, for that incredible introduction. I think it's clear why we're fighting to elect Kshama Sawant to Congress. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. All right. So next up, we have Joan, who you've already heard from today, but just as a reminder, she's a longtime member of Workers Strike Back, a rank and file member of the union OPIU, in the union for workers at Kickstarter. She was recently on strike, and she's going to talk about the need to build Workers Strike Back. So give it up for Joan.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Before we get into our main discussion, I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about, both my personal experience, about why I think that everyone here in this room, everyone here on the stream, should go all out in building this organization, Workers Strike Back, and why it's so important and what we need to build it. So like Justin said, I'm a tech worker. I'm a member of OPEIU 153. My coworkers and I, we just finished the first ever strike of tech workers in the American tech industry to fight and win our second contract. And I am a proud member of Workers Strike Back, and I cannot emphasize it enough how much Workers Strike Back played an integral, crucial role in our strike, not only getting us organized, ready to go on strike, but providing the crucial analysis and insight and encouragement for us to continue to fight. It is not easy, and we could not have done it without Workers Strike Back. So that's why I'll talk more about our strike in a little bit, but I just wanted to speak a little bit before we get into our discussion about what separates Workers Strike Back from other organizations. It is not just our analysis of current events, which I think is so important, as we just heard from Kshama about the 2025 elections, but it's strategy. It is concretely how we engage in class struggle. How do we make a difference? How do we fight, and how do we fucking win? Kshama and Workers Strike Back has an unparalleled track record built off of the real victories that we were able to win here in Seattle with Kshama's council office, that it dramatically improved the lives of working people. And this required building outside of the pro-war, pro-billionaire Democratic Party. It required taking on big business, taking on the gatekeepers, like Kshama said, That includes labor bureaucrats. It includes NGOs affiliated with the Democratic Party. We have to take them on to fight like hell for working class people. And Workers Strike Back, if you want to fight like hell for Workers Strike Back for working class people, Workers Strike Back is the organization that we desperately need and we desperately need to build. So I have a question. Who here is currently a member of Workers Strike Back? Hell yeah, that is so awesome. That is most of the room. I'm so excited to see that. If you're not, I'm happy to talk to you more about Workers Strike Back, about why you should join. For everyone who is currently a member, I'm also going to ask if you can raise your dues. Workers Strike Back members pay monthly dues to help contribute to our organization. I'm going to talk about what those dues go to and why it's so important to consider raising them. But first I want to talk about, the strategy that Workers Strike Back is based on. Here in Seattle, Kshama and the Socialist City Council office and our 15 Now movement won that $15 minimum wage, the first of its kind in any major US city, that is now $21.30, the highest in the nation, built upon this strategy of organizing working class people. As Kshama said, we won the Amazon tax to tax wealthy businesses hundreds of millions of dollars annually to fund affordable housing. There is not a single other example of real victories for working class people in the entire country. Workers Strike Back is founded upon the strategies and the ideas and the leadership that won these victories, and so that we can take them further here in Seattle, but also expand upon them nationwide. Kshama and Justin also both spoke about how just this year here in Washington, we fought back against the $4 billion and won and defeated $4 billion of budget cuts from the Democratic Party in Washington state. We're also, that's right, we're also, Workers Strike Back democratically endorsed Kshama's campaign to defeat Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, because we know that we need independent fighters who can provide an example of what real elected leadership can look like, to provide an example to working class people that there is an alternative. We desperately need that. And we know that if Kshama wins, it will be that political earthquake, as Kshama said. And beyond here, us in this room in Seattle, Workers Strike Back is a national organization. We held our national meeting this last Sunday, and also this campaign to build Kshama's congressional campaign has been a national campaign. We've been building it in Illinois, in New York, in Minnesota, in California, in cities across the country. Because we know that this isn't just an electoral campaign, right? We are laying the foundations for the kind of organization that is so desperately needed that will actually lead working class people to win the historic victories, like free healthcare for all by taxing the rich. And that is the basis upon which we've built this organization, Workers Strike Back. It's the basis upon which we've built those movements that won those victories here in Seattle. And that is the organization that we, everyone in this room, everyone watching on the stream, should get involved in actively building. The first way that Workers Strike Back members do that is by contributing with dues to help build this organization. This money, these resources are absolutely critical in helping us expand the organization. It would not be possible for us to be as effective and as influential without the ability for us to have staff, to have flyers, to have physical resources, to have office space, to produce our broadcast on strike, to make incredibly important contributions to workers' strike funds, to allow them to go on strike. Those are what these dues actively build. And without them, we would not be able to continue building the organization. And that is why I am asking if anyone here can consider raising their dues tonight. We already did ask some members to raise their dues, like I said, at the national meeting, which we hold on Zoom this last weekend. So I'm pretty sure I've seen a couple faces here in this room who also attended it. I pledged to increase my dues at that meeting. So just out of curiosity, who here has already raised their dues in this dues drive and raised it at the meeting on Sunday? Hell yeah, that's right. So I have a big ask for people in this room. Who here can raise your dues to Workers Strike Back by $50 to help us build the congressional campaign, to help us build Workers Strike Back nationally, and to lead this fight for free public health care for all by taxing the rich? Who here can raise their dues by $50 tonight? We also have people on the stream that we're looking at. We got one person here in the room. I don't know if anyone is watching the stream and can tell me if someone on the stream is able to do it also, but maybe we'll get that information after. So also just to speak about, like I said, my union and the workers and my coworkers, we recently went on strike. It was, I am a part of Kickstarter United, which is the first union in the American tech industry, and we just went on strike for 42 days to fight for our second contract. We went on strike demanding a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay and livable wages for all of our workers. And I cannot emphasize enough the crucial role that Workers Strike Back as an organization played in this strike and getting us, this is the first strike in the American tech industry. This is groundbreaking, and I cannot emphasize enough how pivotal the support and the organization of Workers Strike Back was in making it happen. The first day of our strike, on October 2nd, Workers Strike Back here in Seattle organized alongside with me a rally here in Seattle where we invited unions from across the city, other tech unions in CWA, OPIU, the union that we're a part of, to rally in support of our strike. It was an enormous influence in giving the workers who are taking an enormous sacrifice and enormous risk the encouragement that this was possible, that people would have our back. And we had Workers Strike Back members there organizing, supporting us, speaking at our picket lines throughout the entire strike. Kshama came to our picket line and spoke at it and encouraged us and talked about strategy and told us what it would take to win, announced an $1,000 donation to our strike fund right at the beginning of our strike to give us that crucial level of encouragement. And we had Workers Strike Back members from other unions come to our picket line to encourage us, to give us that solidarity, to have us take on this courageous fight. Kshama at her picket line speech, I think, shared up this crucial fighting strategy that Workers Strike Back has. This is a quote that Kshama had at her picket line. "There is no peace under capitalism between the working class and the bosses. It is class war from the billionaires against the workers. And when we go on strike, we are doing it to change that balance of power." And that is the strategy that Workers Strike Back brings. And that is why I am so insistent that Workers Strike Back is a unique, necessary organization that is here to bring these fights of workers forward. As Justin spoke to, right, the workers in Tacoma who went on that brave sick out, who are now facing retaliation, the WFC workers who were Workers Strike Back members who pushed the union leadership to organize a rally to defeat those attacks by the Democratic Party. Those are all things that are desperately needed, that workers need to get organized and to fight. So I'm going to ask one more time, if you're in this room or if you're on the stream, if you can make a sacrifice, if you can dig deep and help build this organization, Workers Strike Back. Can anyone here in this room or on the Zoom raise their dues by $25 a month to help build this organization? Incredible. We have one person raising their dues. People on the stream, I'm going to give it one more second. Keep thinking. What is it going to take to dig deep to build this? The necessary, what it's going to take to build this organization, to fight for workers. So in addition to these struggles on the ground in unions and workplaces, Workers Strike Back is out in the streets. We are building building this organization. One of those ways is the professional broadcast on strike that we produce. and it is like no other. It brings working people directly into our movement with every single episode. For example, we're just looking at the 2025 elections, and the vast majority of people in office the vast majority of office holders in this country are held by Democrats and Republican politicians, and these parties are spending billions of dollars on corporate media to have the corporate media completely tied to them. We are constantly bombarded by this mainstream media that, whether it's about Mamdani in New York, or about what's happening in Washington D.C., focusing on the budget fight from the Democrats. But what we're not hearing is the sort of analysis that we just heard from Kshama about what it means when the Democrats sort of betray working class people and sell them out with the government shutdown. And we need our own media to get that message out, and we need to be able to do that with On Strike and with our high quality publication. So I'm going to ask anyone here in this room if they can raise their dues by any amount. $5, $10, $15, any amount makes a huge difference. We have one person in the back. We have a second person. And again, anyone watching on the stream, if you can raise your dues, that is enormous. So lastly, if you're not a member of Workers Strike Back, I know I saw a few people here in this room. I definitely know there's people on the stream watching right now. And just to talk about our organization, we need more members of Workers Strike Back, right? We need more union workers. We need more workers in new cities, building this movement across the country and really across the world. Our core, and so to be a Workers Strike Back member, right, what that means is agreeing with our core demands and contributing those monthly dues to help build our organization and fight for them. And our core demands, which we voted on and adopted at our last convention earlier this year, are fighting the rich, ending the billionaire class and their system, a 25-hour minimum wage and good union jobs for all, stopping the climate catastrophe by taking big energy corporations into workers' ownership, fighting racism, sexism, and all oppression, ending the deportations, Medicare for all by taxing the rich, ending the genocidal war on Gaza. That means no military aid and no occupation, and bringing down Trump, the billionaires and their two parties, and building and organizing a new mass party of the working class. These are the demands that Workers Strike Back voted on. These are the demands that we're organized around and what we are fighting for. And we are fighting these in concrete battles, making breakthroughs about what can serve as examples of what it's going to take to win these victories everywhere where workers are under attack, to make these victories and making progress in overcoming the constant crises that we are bombarded with in this, in this constant state of crisis in this capitalist system. So if you agree with those demands and you think that you can contribute to the organization and help make a monthly donation to Workers Strike Back, I am asking you, can you join us? Can you join Workers Strike Back and help us build this organization? Can anyone in this room join Workers Strike Back today? I see we have one person, we have two people, we have three people, incredible. Could I have you, I saw a few people raise their hands. Could I have you raise them one more time? Perfect, okay. I think we got everyone. And again, if you're watching on the stream, that also includes you. You can go to our website, Workers Strike Back, and you can find the link to join there. So with that, thank you so much. I really cannot emphasize enough what this organization is and how desperately needed it is to build it. And I appreciate everyone who's making that sacrifice to dig deep, to join, to pay those dues, to raise your dues. It is so desperately necessary. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. That's right. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much, Joan, and thanks everyone for pitching in to build this organization. Next we're going to go to our plenary discussion. So we'll have about 40 minutes for people to basically get on stack and contribute to the discussion, following from Kshama's introduction. Just raise your hand if you want to come into the discussion, and then we'll start making a list of people. And if people can keep their contributions to, less than 5 minutes. I think that'll keep us pretty much on time. But yeah, we'll just start taking down a list. So does anyone know they want to come in? Just raise your hand. Yep. Is that a hand? Cole, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Did you want to speak? I think you're the first person on this. Okay, no worries. Does anyone else want to come in? Yeah, Dom?
Thanks, guys. I just want to talk a little bit about the more specifics on the role we took kind of combating the Democrats earlier this year on the Seattle City Council. There were a couple pretty egregious things they tried to put through. One of them really personally matters to me because my city council member, Joy Hollingsworth, proposed this bill to keep a two-tiered system for the minimum wage permanent, basically meaning I was supposed to get a $3 raise alongside all my coworkers, and my city council member said, that shouldn't happen. We can't afford $3 for the poorest workers in Seattle, and wanted to make this system permanent. What Workers Strike Back was able to do about that, the role we played was initially mobilizing just a couple members there, because it was like a pretty quick turnaround on they're taking their first public comment on it less than 24 or 48 hours afterwards. And then I think as we talked about, coming back every week with more and more numbers, seeing what happened in the city council chambers, going out to tables in the communities or protests that were happening, and talking about this egregious attack that happened. As you do this more and more times and get more and more people involved, these Democrats need to pull back their egregious attacks on working people that they just had to do, that there was no other option. Once Joy Hollingsworth recalls her bill, the minimum wage goes up, and then she kindly never talks about it again. She does like to yell insults at us while we're tabling, though, including me personally, which was really fun. We also got to see this again later this year when they were trying to rewrite the city's ethics code to make it so they could vote when they had a conflict of interest. It's currently a law in Seattle that if you're like a landlord, you can't vote on renters' rights, or if you're a business owner, you can't vote on minimum wage stuff. We won that? I didn't even know that. They were trying to rewrite this law. Yes, yeah. We'd won, over the decade Kshama was in office, a ton of incredibly powerful renters' rights in the city of Seattle. Things like, I think it's 3 months notice for rent increases. If you're end up losing your apartment because you can't afford a rent increase, they have to pay you a bailout. There's a $10 cap on late fees in rents, which has kind of probably personally saved my, maybe not life, but maybe life, living in this city like that. The Democrats on city council, particularly this one, Kathy Moore, wanted to propose this legislation to rewrite the ethics code because there's a lot of landlords and people with that conflict of interest that couldn't vote on any type of repeal of all these renters' rights. The landlords of Seattle are viciously upset we have won. Much like with the minimum wage defense, what we had to do is we had to get working people together, come in, be incredibly disruptive on city council chambers. There's points where they're threatening to kick us out because they're saying, you can't, you guys are being too rowdy. Meanwhile, we're like, you're trying to kill us. And eventually, not only are they able to withdraw the legislation to rewrite these ethics codes, be unable to attack the renters' rights we run in this city, the Democrat who introduced the bill resigned. She was forced to resign based on the pressure that we were able to build going forward. Yeah. Basically, I bring this up because it's a huge example of how Democrats will try to pose as the polite corporate party, the one that we need to support because it's the only option we have. Meanwhile, when we support these people who run on platforms, they will take the opportunity to attack the working class. And we have to show up every time. We have to show them, we have to make the record clear about what they are doing, because when we do that and when we make it very clear there will be a big political cost for their chicanery, they tend to pull it back, which is how we win. That's all I got right now.
All right, thanks so much, Dom. Cole, are you ready to speak, or did you want some more time? Okay, yeah, do you want to come up? Great.
Hi, my name is Cole. This is the first time I've spoken at one of these meetings, and thank you. What really got me into politics was the history of it, and especially the history of socialism internationally and in the United States, and how we used to have a pretty healthy relationship with socialists, healthier than I guess it is now, or it has been since the second Red Scare. And I just want, what I really wanted to join this organization for was to also just teach people how socialism got the country to where it is now, especially with the New Deal, socialist policies, in just ways that people, a lot of people that I talk to don't quite give socialism the credit to. Going here, especially going to the No Kings protests, seeing everybody around there just talking, having so many conversations about just what we've been doing, what we've done, what we're planning to do. It's just amazing. It gives me a lot of hope that we can convince people that this is really the way forward, and it's going to benefit people in a way that maybe they don't understand. But that is my really, I guess, purpose, when I wanted to join, is I want to teach people, make them understand that we can live in a socialist world, that there's going to be bumps along the way, obviously, as there always is, but it can work out in the end, and we don't have to be scared of it. But yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Cole. Also, I really love and really appreciate every time everyone comes up to speak for the first time. I know it can be definitely intimidating to speak in front of a crowd. I definitely was not used to it before I was part of this organization. And so I also just wanted to appeal. I know we have some new members here who might not have been to a Workers' Strike Back meeting before. And just to encourage people, if you think you have a thought or even a question or something like a small thought, if you want to join the discussion, feel free to just sort of raise your hand. I see Matthew back in there, exactly as Matthew's doing. If you want to join the discussion, we do have a couple people before you, Matthew, so I'll get to you. And so then we'll take your name, we'll put it on the stack, the list of people who are going to speak, and then we'll call you up. So don't feel, if you have a thought or a question and you feel like you want to join the discussion, feel free to just raise your hand. Justin and I will make eye contact with you. We'll say we got you down, so don't feel like you need to race for it. So just definitely encourage you. Anything, have a question? I see another person getting on stack. Excellent. So we've got a couple people learning how to do it. So definitely encourage you, even if you haven't spoken before.
Right, looks like we have a lot of people. I had a little bit written up that I wanted to contribute. So, yeah, just in terms of this year's election, the general election results, I think what we saw is the result of a massive overreach by the Trump administration on many issues. These votes, I think, we are clear, don't represent votes for the Democratic Party, which has its lowest approval levels in 35 years. These were overwhelmingly votes against Trump and his policies, which are also deeply unpopular. As one example of this, there was talk that Donald Trump had made big inroads in the state of New Jersey, but what we saw was a landslide victory for the Democratic Party candidate for governor, Mikey Sherrill. She got the most votes of any New Jersey governor candidate ever. Also, there's been a trend in the state that no single party had held the governor's office for more than 2 full consecutive terms for over 60 years. Mikey Sherrill is succeeding a 2-term Democratic governor, breaking that trend. In addition, we saw Democrat Abigail Spanberger won the governor's race in Virginia. And in California, voters passed an initiative to basically gerrymander the state's congressional districts to shift 5 districts to Democrats from from Republicans. So, I mean, I think it's clear from these results that working people hate the Trump administration's policies so far. Trump's tariffs are raising the cost of living. Just like Biden, he continued to allow the genocide in Gaza to get worse, including helping to engineer the mass starvation campaign against Palestinians earlier this year. Trump has carried out a horrific immigration policy, including ICE detention as a political weapon, kidnapping working people off the streets in broad daylight. Trump and the Republicans passed trillions of dollars of cuts to Medicaid and Medicare with no fight back from the Democrats. And Trump has fired tens of thousands of federal workers with no fight back from the union leadership. Interestingly, Marjorie Taylor Greene is starting to distance herself from Trump and the Republicans. So she recently tweeted, quote, "I come from a working class family. We ran a construction company for over 20 years. That was a little bit funny. I think we have a different definition of working class, but anyway, continuing the quote, she says, "And I've seen firsthand how government failure crushes hardworking Americans. Both parties are to blame. Republicans and Democrats have let the American people down for decades. While Americans clock in every single day, Congress isn't even working." So that's from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Large majorities of Americans do not support the policies of the Trump administration, and the recent election is more concrete evidence that things are not looking good for Trump. However, we know where this is going. Obama was elected on a promise of hope and change, and then he bailed out the banks in the 2008 financial crisis. He continued all the wars abroad, and he didn't fight for universal health care. Anger at Obama and the bailout of the big banks helped lead to the rise of the Tea Party, which created an opening for the right wing, which, led to Trump's election. He became extremely unpopular, especially for how he oversaw the COVID chaos that threw working people's lives into turmoil. Because of that, Biden was elected. And he didn't deliver for working people, so Trump was elected yet again, right? So, the Democratic Party will continue to, unfortunately, get elected despite never fighting for working people, because we still do not have an independent working class leaders in most areas, much less a new party for working people that we need. So while things can change at this point, it does seem more likely that the Democrats will make more gains in the 2026 midterms as people reject Trump's attacks here and around the world. But I think the California initiative to change the congressional districts to favor Democratic Party candidates is itself a perfect example of how bankrupt the Democratic Party is. Rather than fighting Trump by fighting for working people, the Democrats pursued this electoral gerrymandering maneuver to just increase their own election chances. If they fought for healthcare and housing funded by taxing the rich, that would be extremely popular and would expose Trump, but the Democrats don't do this because this is a party of and for the billionaires. I think what we saw with Mamdani is an exception in terms of the working class demands he ran on, but he's still not leading with a strategy that can win those demands. So that's why I think, Kshama Sawant's independent socialist campaign for Congress is so important. This campaign can be a historic breakthrough for breaking out of this vicious cycle of the two parties and lay the basis for a new fighting working class party. And next, we had someone next to Dom, I think. What's your name? Coco. Do you want to come up? Great.
Hello, my name is Coco. I am a new member of Workers Strike Back and a first time speaker at anything like this, so I'm a bit nervous. And I know that I don't know the correct terms to describe everything that is happening to me and that is happening to everyone that I love, but I know that it's fucking happening, you know? So I'm going to throw what I can out there. But I work as an office administrator at a primary care clinic. So I kind of wanted to get into what's going on healthcare-wise. I have so much to say about dealing with, like, people getting denied and all of that and being, you know, the person that has to carry that grief. But I'm still kind of figuring out how to talk about that HIPAA compliantly. So what I'm going to talk about actually is my own healthcare that I lost on Halloween this year, which is like the real horror. But I am so thankful, and like my ass has been saved by the highest minimum wage that we have here in Seattle. And I also know that state medical healthcare coverage has not followed suit. And so everyone, I am a minimum wage part-time worker, and I don't qualify for Medicaid anymore. So I know that pretty much everyone who is working in Seattle right now doesn't. That's all I have to say, really. Just the way we need to and are working towards affordable wages for all of our workers, but there's still so much work to be done that I know from being at meetings like this is like actively being blocked by lots of people in power. So I'm glad to be here with the people who want to help. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Coco. Again, so happy to hear first-time speakers at our meetings. We love it. We currently have what's looking like a full stack, so I think we're going to have to close the stack for now, which means we're going to be running up with the amount of people who have currently signed up to speak, running up against the clock on the amount of time we've had for this capped for this discussion, because we have a couple other business points that we want to get to before we close out the meeting for tonight. Couple other action items of the stuff we want to organize before we end the meeting, and then go out, hit the streets, and organize until our next meeting in December. So we're going to have the stack be closed to the rest of the discussion, but we have a few more people to speak. Next, we're going to have Matthew come up and speak.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew. I am a socialist, and I'm a member of Workers Strike Back. And I just wanted to start by saying just a quick reminder to make sure everybody in this room signs our petition, no retaliation against staff at Ginny Reed Elementary School, and then also everyone in the live stream. We're going to drop the petition link in the live stream, so make sure everyone signs that. I wanted to talk about, as Kshama said something, about what Mamdani's day one looked like, what, it looked like, downplaying working people's expectations, for all the fighting demands that he ran on, versus, what our day one will look like if we win, if we send Kshama Sawant to the U.S. Congress. We talk about this often, but, Kshama has committed to, using our inauguration, and, we use the word our, very purposefully, our inauguration for a protest of at least 10,000 people in Washington, D.C., where we are going to launch a historic fight for free public health care for all by taxing the rich, and also a historic fight to building the anti-war movement, submitting a bill for ending all U.S. military aid to the Israeli state. And I think, just comparing the two, what our day one would look like versus what Mamdani's has looked like, and another thing I wanted to talk about, I said, Workers Strike Back it hasn't been mentioned tonight. We talk about, our concrete strategy to, build the fight for free public healthcare nationwide. As part of Kshama Sawant's independent campaign for U.S. Congress, we'll also have a ballot initiative, that we're going to be launching in Seattle, Workers Strike Back. It's going to be expanding the Amazon tax that was won under her city council office through a ballot initiative by $5 billion to make the city of Seattle the first city in the nation to win free public health care. And we want to use that as a battering ram. We want to use that as a battering ram to winning it nationwide, along with like what hopefully will be a national congressional platform. And that's just the kind of strategy that is missing, in working class movements across the board. Every single day, we're out here talking to working class people where they're like, wow, wait, actually we can do that? Because that fucking makes sense. Why is no one else doing that? It's like winning free public health care in a major U.S. city, to launch that historic fight. So I just wanted to mention that, Workers Strike Back's ballot initiative that's up and coming, and then also, as I said, remind everyone to sign this. So make sure everyone, before you leave, scan this and sign this tonight. So yeah, thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Matthew. Next we have Maddie and then Calvin. So Maddie, do you want to come up?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm getting over a bug, so hopefully I'm not too muffled or stuffy. I think as I was sitting here listening to everyone's contributions, there's so many important things that people brought in tonight. And I think that it just becomes so clear every time we have a meeting like this and every time we talk about this campaign, how much we need a movement builder in office. Every single victory that we can look at from our 10 years on city council and every single defensive fight that we had to take up to hold on to those victories, because of course we don't just get to sit back and rest after we win things. Corporate interests will try to strip them away. Every single time it was done through a movement. It was done through bringing working people into action, union members into action, members of the community together. And that's what we need for the working people, not just, nationally, but internationally. I think that Cole brought in some really important points. Every single victory that we can look back on through history, there's, basically anytime the working class has won anything, it's because there's been a militant movement behind it. Often, socialists were driving these movements forward, but the really important thing to take with that is the correct politics and the correct tactics, and that is so critical. I think that what we've seen with a lot of people who are even well-meaning, a lot of politicians, come into office and think that just having the right ideas can change things, having the morally correct ideas can change things, and they find that what they are met with is just immense pressure from the billionaires, immense pressure from corporate interests. And if you don't have a movement behind you, you get crushed. You get crushed or you get flipped, because it is intensely uncomfortable to be in that position. I think that, the fact that we have seen Kshama withstand this for 10 years and is now willingly putting herself into an even bigger, even nastier fight is telling of the fact that, she's somebody who not just has the right politics, but also has the right tactics and has the experience to back it up and knows that she can build the movements necessary to win things for the working class. And that just doesn't come out of nowhere. That means that we have to build these movements. If you've been at a meeting before, you may have heard me say a similar thing, but it's so critical. The Amazon tax was won because people came together and fought for it. The $15 minimum wage was won and defended because people came together and fought for it. If we want a movement builder in office, we need to come together and fight for it. We need to bring our friends, our coworkers, our family members, our neighbors into action, and we need to fight for it. We're going to have some event signups later, and I think it's really, really critical that we all sign up for what we can. We are the movement. We are the members of the movement, and we are responsible for building it and making it possible. Because I think about how much of an opening there is right now. There is so much hunger for something different. And if we have the right tactics in the right place, think about what a lesson that is for the working class nationally. Yeah, that's it.
Millions of working people around this country are absolutely furious. Justin spoke to how the recent elections are really not a vote for the Democrats. They're a vote against the Republicans. They're a vote against the current status quo. But the problem is that in the context of all this mass anger, most people aren't aware of where it is to go if they want to fight back, how it is that they can effectively fight back. And that's why we launched Workers Strike Back, because it's, in and of itself, the anger is not going to change things. The working class needs to be far better organized than it is, and it needs not just one-off protests, because there have been a lot of those. It needs an organized movement that is prepared to engage in a class struggle against the billionaires, and not just against the billionaires, but against their politicians, and also against those politicians who present themselves as reformers of their party, but reformers of the Democratic Party, who present themselves as reasonable advocates for change. So Kshama was right to say that Zohran Mamdani's victory is a blow to Wall Street. It is a blow to the Zionist lobby. That is true. But they're not threatened by Zohran Mamdani in the same way that they're threatened by Kshama Sawant. And the reason for that is because they take comfort in the fact that Zohran Mamdani is saying that he's going to reform the Democratic Party. They take comfort in the fact that he's carrying out this charm offensive against the billionaires, or rather with the billionaires. They take comfort in the fact that he's backed down on a number of his promises. They take comfort in the fact that he has rehired Jessica Tisch as the police commissioner. So all these things, the problem we have with this, and people will ask us, why criticize Mamdani? He hasn't even started yet. Why are you saying these things? Give the guy a chance. The reason that we have to say something is when we see the working class being directed down a dead end, into a dead-end alley in the dark, we have to say, that's a fucking mistake. It's a mistake. It's not going to work. And we owe it to the working class to say, this is the tactics, this is the strategy that we need to fight back and win, and that this strategy, which has been tried a million times, of trying to reform, trying to find the soul of this soulless party, the Democratic Party, is a complete dead end. And so I think, what people have asked is, what should Mamdani do? And I'm going to say this as though it's possible Mamdani would do it. I don't think that it really is, but let's say it anyway. So if Mamdani wanted to, he has now over 100,000 people who volunteered in his campaign. That's a lot of people. He could take the momentum from that election victory and those 100,000 people, and he could organize one fucking incredible movement for any one of his demands. He could say, we're going to fight first for free transit. We're going to fight first for free childcare. We're going to fight for the $30 minimum wage that I talked about a little bit. We're going to fight for one of these things, and we're going to launch an almighty mass movement. Here's the rally we're going to be holding in January. And at that rally, we're going to begin the process of organizing a mass movement. We're going to launch neighborhood action groups. We're going to launch mass organizing conferences, mass rallies, mass protests. We're going to bring pressure in every possible way on this political establishment until it finally caves in and passes the things that we're demanding. That is exactly what we did in Seattle. That is exactly what Kshama Sawant did when she was elected in 2013. That's exactly what she did. She launched 15 Now. And the 15 Now movement carried out all of these things and more. And it was that movement which found every possible way to put pressure on the Democratic Party politicians, not only to pass 15, but to undermine all their attempts to water down 15, which were not minimal things. As Kshama mentioned, they wanted to get rid of inflation automatic inflation increases. They wanted to limit it to only a section of the working class. They specifically wanted to shut out any worker working for a franchise, which included fast food workers, obviously, the very people who had been leading the fight for the $15 minimum wage. So they wanted to do all these things to gut it, and the only reason that didn't happen is because of the movement that we built. And so the central lesson that we're trying to teach working people is that class struggle is what is necessary to win anything. We didn't invent these ideas. These are the basic ideas of revolutionary socialism. They are the basic ideas of revolutionary socialism. And we don't just need to learn them in an academic sense. We need to learn to apply them. We need not just hundreds, but thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to learn to apply them. And that is how change can actually happen. And that's why not only do we need to build Workers' Strike Back, but winning this election campaign could have an absolutely transformative effect. An absolutely transformative effect on national politics, the way that the $15 minimum wage did when we won it here in Seattle. And not everybody is aware of this, but it was the first $15 minimum wage that was won in a big city in the United States. And it was that victory that spread around the country. And literally, that victory that we won here is the reason that tens of millions of workers got a raise. And we did that with a few hundred people fighting back. Can you imagine what we could do with 100,000 people? And that's our critique of Zohran Mamdani. And we would love to see him change his mind. But more importantly, we'd like to see the people who helped him get elected change their mind that they should go to this guy to find out what to do. Instead, they need to organize, they need to build on that momentum, and they need to fight and win these things that they just campaigned for.
Thank you so much, Calvin. That's going to be the end of our discussion. Also just wanted to give another thank you to Kshama for the introduction. Kshama is also an elected member of our National Coordinating Committee, along with Calvin, an elected member of our National Coordinating Committee. I know we had some people who also considered wanting to join the discussion. I know we have people also watching on the stream. And again, we're a growing organization, exactly as Calvin was talking about. If you have things that you want to hear about or discuss, or things that you want Workers' Strike Back to get involved in, please message our National Coordinating Committee at solidarity@workersstrikeback.org. If you're watching on the stream, we also have a national meeting that we host on Zoom every month, so that is a way to get involved. And we also have meetings in cities throughout the country. So if you didn't get a chance to participate in this discussion, there are many other ways to get involved. So before we close out our meeting for this evening, we just have two last pieces of business, things that we are fighting for concretely in the next month. The first of which is going to be a discussion when Kshama launched her congressional campaign, Workers' Strike Back took a vote to endorse that campaign, to have our members fight for it, and to fight to get Kshama elected. We held an incredibly successful rally here in Seattle just a month ago, and as we get into these winter months, we're going to be organizing some really important events to continue building the congressional campaign to fight to get Kshama elected to office. We're going to have Willow, a Workers' Strike Back member, come up and speak to us about what we're going to be doing in the next couple months to continue building on that momentum to get Kshama elected to Congress. Please welcome Willow.
Thanks, Joan, and thanks everyone for being here. The House just passed a bill to end the longest ever government shutdown, with the Democrats completely selling out working people in the process. When the Affordable Care Act subsidies expire, over 20 million workers will see their health insurance premiums more than double, myself included. Millions will lose coverage. Tens of thousands will die preventable deaths. The Affordable Care Act is already criminally unaffordable. Obama and the Democrats, who had a majority in the House and the Senate in 2010, could have passed Medicare for all if they'd wanted to. Instead, they showed where their true loyalties lie, with a massive giveaway to the health insurance industry instead. In 2022, Biden and the Democrats had another House and Senate majority and the chance to at least make the ACA subsidies permanent. But they refused to do this too, leaving the subsidies set to expire at the end of this year. And meanwhile, Trump has tweeted, quote, I'm recommending to Senate Republicans that the hundreds of billions of dollars currently being sent to money-sucking insurance companies in order to save the bad health care provided by Obamacare be sent directly to the people. And the Democrats have left themselves wide open to these attacks by trying to keep Obamacare on life support instead of taxing the rich for free health care for all. They have repeatedly refused to bring any universal health care bill for a vote in Congress and crushed efforts in states like Vermont and California. Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal and Democratic Party surrogate Bernie Sanders generated a bunch of PR for their Medicare for All bill in April and then did nothing to fight for it, despite having the backing of the largest union and professional association of registered nurses in the U.S. Mamdani has said we should fight for the soul of the Democratic Party. But the Democratic Party has no soul. To get elected and to stay elected as a Democrat, you have to sell your soul. To win free healthcare for all, we need to build a fighting movement. We need mass strike action, mass protests, and mass civil disobedience against both of the billionaire-backed parties and the for-profit healthcare industry. Kshama's opponent, corporate pro-genocide Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, voted for Clinton's Balanced Budget Act in 1997, which brutally cut Medicare and Medicaid by nearly $150 billion and opened the door to privatizing Medicare. Now he's crying crocodile tears over the expiration of the ACA tax credits, even as he's taken over $112,000 and counting in campaign contributions from health insurance companies. Adam Smith has also repeatedly voted to fund the genocide in Gaza and ban food aid to Gaza. He voted to form ICE in 2002, and he has said as recently as last year in an interview that he didn't regret that vote. He's bankrolled by AIPAC, the weapons manufacturers, and the billionaire class as a whole. We need to throw Adam Smith out of office. Kshama's campaign is 100% funded by working people, and she's leading the fight back against these corporations that are putting profit over the basic healthcare needs of working people by fighting for free healthcare for all, funded by taxing the rich. Sending Kshama to U.S. Congress would be an earthquake in U.S. politics. No revolutionary socialist has ever been elected to Congress. Winning this campaign would allow us to turn politics upside down in D.C. the same way we did in Seattle, and to win historic victories for working people. And the ruling class knows it too. Kshama's opponent, Adam Smith, will have more millions of dollars behind his campaign than ever before from the weapons industry, health insurance companies, big business, and the billionaires. The Democratic Party will also back him to the hilt, because the last thing they want is Kshama Sawant in Congress putting pressure on them and exposing their lies about whose interests they actually represent. We won't be able to win without a serious approach to fundraising. We estimate that this grassroots campaign will need to raise $1.5 million in the primary to have a real shot to bring down Adam Smith and elect Kshama. And as the weather gets colder and wetter and the days get shorter, our ability to reach people on the streets is seriously curtailed. An important way that we're going to continue to build this campaign this winter is with house party fundraisers, where supporters invite people from their own communities to donate to the campaign, ask questions, and discuss how we can build the strongest movement to elect Kshama to Congress and fight for our demands. House parties played a pivotal role in winning Kshama's previous election campaigns and defeating the right-wing recall campaign against her in 2021. And they will be crucial to winning the campaign to send Kshama to U.S. Congress. So we have a goal of having at least 25 house parties between now and the end of February. And so I want you to take a minute and see if you can think of at least 5 people, friends, family, coworkers, who you can invite to a house party gathering. If you can't host at your home, think about if you have friends you could partner with, or consider a community space, a restaurant, bar, or cafe. If you want to host an event with people who are geographically spread out, then we could even host a house party on Zoom. We've actually already had a really successful one, and we have another one scheduled next week. So who here can host a house party to help raise the working class dollars that we need to overpower Adam Smith's corporate and APAC donors? Anyone? Hey! So, if you don't think that you could do it yourself, or if you think maybe you could, but you don't know exactly what that looks like or what that entails, and you're scared to commit right now because I'm standing in front of you and I'm staring you all down, that's fine. Eleanor and I are going to be, sort of heading up that team. We have a really amazing, thorough document guide that kind of walks you through what does this look like? What's actually expected of me, right? Like what actually goes into hosting a house party, right? But to talk you through a little bit of that right now, really, like, you figure out the space, you invite the people and bring them together, but we'll help you every step of the way. And you don't have to, like, pitch it, right? Like, you kind of just, it's like, I don't know, it's giving, like, Mary Kay, right? Like, it's giving Avon. Like, you say, hey, everybody, come to my house. We're going to do this thing. And then we show up and, like, we actually, like, help out. Like, we'll talk to the people. We'll, really help politically support you. All that we really ask you to do at the event politically is tell people why you're excited to support the campaign, right? Because the people that you know want to know, why are you gathering them together to do this, right? Why do you care so much about this? And why should they too, right? And you have so much more sway with them than we do in that way. And so that can be really short, and we can help you sort of workshop what it is that you need to say and what your community is going to care most about. But I think, don't let it scare you. We will definitely be supporting you every step of the way. So if you want to think about it, if you're kind of interested, if you're not sure, if you've got questions, see me or another volunteer. We will reach out to you and talk you through all of the details further. Okay? Cool. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks so much, Willow. So for our last point, we have Em is going to come up to talk about building for a big event that's on our calendar. Em is an elected member of the Workers' Strike Back National Coordinating Committee. She's been a part of unionization campaigns and many of the battles of Kshama's Socialist City Council office in Seattle. And she's also the campaign manager for Kshama's Independent Socialist Anti-Genocide campaign for Congress right now. So give it up for Em.
Hey, everybody. This has been a really great meeting. Thanks for everyone who has come, everyone who spoke. And as Justin said, my name is Em Smith. I'm an elected member of the National Coordinating Committee of Workers' Strike Back. For everyone here and those on the live stream, if you haven't become a member of Workers' Strike Back, do that right now. workersstrikeback.org/join. Join this organization. Help us build the fight for free healthcare for all by taxing the rich, to elect Kshama Sawant as the first ever revolutionary socialist to U.S. Congress. We have to build these fights, and we need organization to do it. The Democratic Party, as we've talked about, voted to end the government shutdown without winning anything for working people. That was after 45 days of telling working class people that we had to make sacrifices during the shutdown, that people had to go without groceries because their SNAP benefits were expiring, because federal workers were losing their paychecks, that they had to go without pay, that they had to go without work, that they had to get second jobs or get evicted from their apartments because they couldn't pay rent, that they had to pay the costs of the shutdown. And they said that it was because Democrats were fighting to stop the Obamacare subsidies from expiring, that they were fighting to stop our healthcare premiums from going up, to restore Medicaid funding. And then after all of that, after 45 days of telling us that, as soon as the 2025 elections were over, they vote to stop the shutdown and they vote to sell us out. As Kshama said, this is not the first time. The Democratic Party has sold out working people again and again on healthcare and on everything else. In 2008, Obama ran on fixing the broken healthcare system, on getting profit out of healthcare, on passing a strong public option, when the movement really was demanding to go further, to fight for single payer, to fight for publicly funded healthcare. And in 2010, they held up Joe Lieberman, this senator who some people might know about, as the reason that they just couldn't pass a public option, and they have this handout to the health insurance industry that is Obamacare. They viciously attacked the movement around Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in 2020. The Democratic Party in California killed universal health care multiple times. And of course, this whole debacle with the government shutdown came after the Democratic Party refused to make these subsidies permanent for 2 years when they had the presidency and both houses of Congress. So we cannot afford to rely on the Democratic Party. We cannot afford to have another go-around on this merry-go-round of sellouts of the Democratic Party. We have to build this movement ourselves. We have to build the fight for free healthcare for all by taxing the rich. As others have mentioned, Workers Strike Back and Kshama are leading a ballot initiative in Seattle to expand the Amazon tax by $5 billion a year to fund free healthcare for every single person in Seattle. We have to build this. We have to build this movement, and we need a real strategy to win. And so we are having on December 6th a free healthcare for all town hall. This is going to be in Columbia City, in Seattle. If you're here in person, if you can get to Seattle, it's going to be at the Rainier Community Center at 2 p.m. Pacific time on December 6th. If you're here, if you can get to Seattle, come out to this free healthcare for all town hall. If you're not in Seattle, if you're watching on live stream, or if you're here visiting and going back somewhere, tune in to the live stream. We are going to be live streaming this on the On Strike YouTube channel, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Tune into the free healthcare for all town hall so that we can talk about what is that strategy that's needed. How did we win these victories during Kshama's decade on the Seattle City Council? How have we built these movements? What is necessary to actually win a breakthrough in the fight for free healthcare? So come out to that town hall December 6th. You can RSVP. Who here is planning or can plan to come out to that free healthcare for all town hall? Awesome. That is pretty much everybody in the room. Post in the live stream chat if you can come out. Go to kshamasawant.org, sign up, RSVP. We'll post that link in the live stream chat as well shortly. So come out, sign up, RSVP. I'll see you on December 6th.
Thank you so much, Em. So excited to see everyone here in this room at that town hall. So excited to hear about those house parties for us to continue building Kshama's congressional campaign. Also just so excited for all the people who spoke for the first time at a Workers Strike Back meeting. We also have several new members. We have several members who also across the country, not just here in this room, but people who are watching the live stream across the country have joined Workers Strike Back in this meeting. And we've had multiple members raise their dues. I don't have the specific numbers in front of me, but thank you so much for everyone for digging deep, making that sacrifice. And I'm so proud of what we can accomplish. And I'm so proud of this organization and what we're fighting for. Because when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Solidarity. Thank you so much, everyone.